His kids skipped the funeral. But the lawyer didn't. The casket sat alone in the dimly lit church, a stark reminder of a life once filled with promise and prosperity. Not a single rose adorned the polished wood, and not a single tear was shed. The pews, typically filled with family and friends during such solemn occasions, were eerily empty. The only figure present was Jordan Ellis, a black lawyer dressed in a crisp suit, sitting in the front row with his head bowed in quiet respect. Mr. Harold Whitmore, once a wealthy businessman and the proud father of 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren, had passed away in solitude at a nursing home. His family, who had enjoyed the privileges of wealth and comfort throughout their lives, had not even bothered to claim his body. The absence of flowers, the lack of final words, and the silence that enveloped the church spoke volumes about the relationships that had deteriorated over the years. Jordan sat there for 45 minutes, enveloped in silence, reflecting on the life of a man he barely knew but felt deserved better. When asked why he chose to attend the funeral of a stranger, he simply replied, "A man like him deserved better." His words resonated with a profound sense of empathy and respect for a life that had been overlooked and forgotten by those who should have cared the most. Harold Whitmore had once been a titan in the business world, the CEO of a large manufacturing company that thrived during the economic booms of the 70s and 80s. He had built a fortune from the ground up, acquiring a sprawling mansion in the suburbs and raising his 3 children in an environment filled with every privilege money could offer. Family vacations, private schools, and lavish birthday parties were the norm. However, the fabric of his family began to unravel after the tragic passing of his wife. As the years went by, Harold's children began to drift away. Visits became infrequent, phone calls went unanswered, and birthdays were forgotten. The vibrant family gatherings that once filled their home with laughter and joy were replaced by an overwhelming silence. Harold, who had once been a figure of authority and guidance, became an old man with too many opinions and not enough use. As his children would dismissively remark, by the time Harold reached the age of 84, he found himself utterly alone. The loneliness was palpable, and the isolation weighed heavily on his heart. When he mustered the courage to ask his son for assistance with in-home care, he was met with a cold response. "You've got enough money, figure it out." Those words cut deep, leaving Harold feeling abandoned and forgotten by the very people he had devoted his life to raising. Eventually, Harold made the difficult decision to sell his beloved home and check himself into a modest care facility. It was there, in the sterile environment of the nursing home, that he met Jordan Ellis. Jordan was a young lawyer who dedicated his Thursday afternoons to volunteering legal services for elderly residents. He was a beacon of hope and kindness. In a place where many felt invisible, unlike most of the residents, Harold didn't engage in idle chatter or share stories of his past. He was reserved, often lost in his thoughts. But Jordan, with his warm smile and genuine demeanor, always made it a point to greet Harold. "You don't have to talk, Mr. Whitmore. I'll still sit with you," he would say, offering companionship without expectation. This simple act of kindness meant the world to Harold, who had long been deprived of meaningful human connection. As Jordan sat in the empty church, he couldn't help but reflect on the stark contrast between the life Harold had lived and the lonely end he had faced. The absence of family at his funeral was a testament to the fractured relationships that had developed over the years. It was a poignant reminder of how quickly time could erode the bonds of love and loyalty. Jordan's heart ached for Harold, a man who had once commanded respect and admiration, but had ultimately been reduced to a forgotten figure in his own life story. The silence of the church was deafening, and as he sat there, he felt a deep sense of responsibility to honor Harold's memory. He understood that this was not just about a funeral. It was about recognizing the humanity in every individual, regardless of their circumstances. Little did Jordan know that Harold had left behind a will that would change everything. The reading of that will would reveal not only the depths of Harold's character, but also the profound impact that a single act of kindness could have on the lives of others. As Jordan sat in quiet contemplation, he was unaware that he was about to embark on a journey that would redefine his purpose and legacy. In that moment of solitude, surrounded by the echoes of a life unlived, Jordan made a silent promise to himself. He would ensure that Harold's story would not end in obscurity. He would carry forward the lessons learned from this man who had been forgotten by his own family, transforming a narrative of neglect into one of dignity and respect. The seeds of change were being sown, and the world was about to witness the power of compassion and the importance of remembering those who had been cast aside. As the minutes ticked by, Jordan remained seated, a solitary figure in a sea of emptiness, embodying the very essence of what it means to honor a life well lived. The funeral may have been unattended, but in that moment, he was determined to ensure that Harold Whitmore would not be forgotten. Harold Whitmore was once a name that commanded respect and admiration. In the bustling world of business during the 70s and 80s, he was a titan, the CEO of a large manufacturing company that thrived in an era of economic prosperity. His journey began in humble beginnings, where he learned the value of hard work and determination. With a vision and an unyielding spirit, he built a fortune that allowed him to provide a life of comfort and privilege for his family. In those early years, Harold was not just a businessman, he was a family man. He married his college sweetheart, and together they raised 3 children, James, Caroline, and Thomasin, a home filled with laughter, love, and the promise of a bright future. The Whitmore household was a hub of activity, where family dinners were a nightly ritual and weekends were spent on family outings, vacations, and celebrations. Harold took pride in being a provider, ensuring that his children had access to the best education, extracurricular activities, and opportunities that money could buy. However, the fabric of this idyllic life began to unravel with the tragic passing of his beloved wife. Her death was a devastating blow, not just to Harold, but to the entire family. The warmth and joy that once filled their home were replaced by an overwhelming sense of loss and grief. Harold struggled to cope with the void left by his wife's absence. He found himself navigating the complexities of single parenthood while grappling with his own sorrow. As time went on, the children, now young adults, began to drift away. They were busy with their own lives' careers, relationships, and personal pursuits. Visits to their father became infrequent, and phone calls dwindled to mere formalities. Birthdays that were once celebrated with enthusiasm turned into quiet acknowledgements, often forgotten altogether. Harold felt the sting of abandonment as he watched his children prioritize their own lives over the man who had dedicated his own to their well-being. The emotional distance grew, and Harold became increasingly isolated. He often found himself reminiscing about the days when his home was filled with the sounds of laughter and the warmth of family gatherings. The memories of family vacations, holiday celebrations, and simple moments of togetherness haunted him. He felt like a relic of a bygone era, a man whose opinions and experiences were no longer valued or sought after, as Harold aged. He became more vocal about his feelings of neglect. He would express his desire for companionship and support, but his words often fell on deaf ears. His children, now entrenched in their own lives, viewed him as an inconvenience rather than a cherished parent. The once respected patriarch of the family was now seen as an old man with too many opinions and not enough use, a phrase that cut deeply and echoed in his mind. By the time Harold reached the age of 84, he found himself living in a modest nursing home, a far cry from the luxurious mansion he had once called home. The decision to sell his house was not made lightly. It was a painful acknowledgement of his new reality. The nursing home, while providing basic care, lacked the warmth and familiarity of his previous life. It was a place where many residents felt invisible, and Harold was no exception. In this new environment, Harold met Jordan Ellis, a young black lawyer who volunteered his time to provide legal services for the elderly residents. Jordan's presence was a breath of fresh air in the sterile atmosphere of the nursing home. He approached each resident with genuine kindness and respect, treating them as individuals with stories worth telling. Unlike many others, Harold found solace in Jordan's company. Initially, Harold was reserved, reluctant to share his thoughts and feelings. He had grown accustomed to silence and solitude, but Jordan's warm smile and unwavering patience slowly broke down the walls Harold had built around himself. "You don't have to talk, Mr. Whitmore. I'll still sit with you," Jordan would say, offering companionship without expectation. This simple act of kindness meant more to Harold than he could express. It reminded him that he was still worthy of attention and respect, even in his twilight years. As the weeks turned into months, Harold began to open up to Jordan. He shared stories of his past, his rise in the business world, the love he had for his wife, and the joy of raising his children. He spoke of the dreams he had for his family and the heartache he felt as those dreams faded away. Jordan listened intently, providing a safe space for Harold to express his emotions without judgment. Despite the challenges Harold faced, he remained a man of dignity and resilience. He had built a successful career, and his accomplishments were a testament to his hard work and determination. However, the loneliness that enveloped him was a heavy burden to bear. He longed for connection, for someone to acknowledge the life he had lived and the legacy he hoped to leave behind. As Harold's health began to decline, he found himself reflecting on his life choices and the relationships he had nurtured or failed to nurture. He grappled with feelings of regret and sorrow, wishing he could turn back time and mend the bonds with his children. Yet, he also recognized that he had done his best as a father, providing for them and instilling values that he hoped would guide them through life. In the nursing home, Harold became a quiet observer of the lives around him. He witnessed the struggles of other residents who, like him, had been forgotten by their families. Their stories mirrored his own, and he felt a deep sense of empathy for those who had been cast aside. It was during these moments of reflection that Harold began to contemplate his own legacy. He realized that while he may have been forgotten by his family, he still had the power to make a difference in the lives of others. He wanted to ensure that no one else would have to endure the loneliness and neglect he had experienced. It was this desire that ultimately led him to draft a will that would not only reflect his wishes, but also serve as a final act of justice for those who had shown him kindness in his darkest hours. Little did he know that his decision would have far-reaching consequences, not just for himself, but for the man who had chosen to honor him in death. Harold's story is a poignant reminder of the fragility of family bonds and the importance of compassion and connection. In a world that often prioritizes success and material wealth, it is the relationships we cultivate and the kindness we extend to others that truly define our legacy. As Jordan sat in the empty church, reflecting on Harold's life, he understood that this was not just a story of neglect, but one of resilience, dignity, and the profound impact of human connection. Harold Whitmore may have been forgotten by his family, but his legacy would live on through the lives he touched and the mission he inspired in others. A week after the funeral, Jordan Ellis received an unexpected call from a private estate manager. The voice on the other end was formal and slightly apprehensive. "Mr. Ellis, we need you present for the reading of Mr. Whitmore's will." Jordan was taken aback. "Why me? I wasn't family," he replied, confusion evident in his tone. The estate manager explained that Harold had specifically requested Jordan's presence, a detail that piqued his curiosity and concern. As he prepared for the reading, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into a world he didn't belong to. He had spent the last few months volunteering his time and legal expertise to help the elderly residents of the nursing home, but he never imagined that his connection with Harold would lead him to this moment. The thought of being included in such a significant event felt surreal, almost like a dream. When Jordan arrived at the law office for the reading, he was greeted by a stark contrast to the quiet solitude of the funeral. The room was filled with tension, the air thick with unspoken words and emotions. Harold's 3 adult children, James, Caroline, and Thomas, were present. Their arms crossed defensively as they scrolled through their phones, seemingly disinterested in the proceedings. Their body language spoke volumes. They were there, out of obligation rather than genuine concern for their father's legacy. One of them, a well-dressed man in his 50s, muttered under his breath, "Let's just get this over with. I have golf at 3. His dismissive attitude was a stark reminder of the indifference that had characterized their relationship with Harold in his final years. Jordan felt a wave of anger wash over him, not just for Harold, but for the way his children had treated him. It was clear that they had chosen absence when it mattered most, and now they were about to face the consequences of their neglect. The executor of the estate, a middle-aged man with a serious demeanor, cleared his throat and began the reading. "To my children, James, Caroline, and Thomas, you had every opportunity to be there when it mattered. You chose absence, so I choose absence from your inheritance. You will receive $1 each." The room fell silent, the weight of Harold's words hanging heavily in the air. Gasps erupted from the children, their expressions shifting from indifference to shock. "This is a joke," one of them exclaimed, disbelief etched across his face. "Who even is this guy?" Another added, their voices rising in protest. Jordan remained silent, observing the scene unfold before him. He felt a sense of vindication. For Harold, who had been so deeply wronged by those who should have cared for him the most. The executor continued, his voice steady and unwavering. "To Mr. Jordan Ellis, who treated me with dignity when no one else did, I leave my entire estate, $4.7 million in assets, stocks, and savings." The room erupted into chaos. The children's disbelief turned to anger as they struggled to comprehend the reality of the situation. "Dad must have been senile," one of them shouted, their frustration boiling over. Jordan, however, remained composed. He understood the power of silence, just as Harold had. He had witnessed firsthand the impact of neglect and the importance of compassion. As the children continued to argue and question the validity of their father's decision, Jordan felt a mix of emotions, gratitude, sadness, and a profound sense of responsibility. He had been chosen not just as an heir, but as a steward of Harold's legacy. In the days that followed, the media caught wind of the story. Headlines blared, "Black lawyer inherits fortune, builds legacy of kindness." The narrative quickly went viral, capturing the attention of the public and sparking conversations about family dynamics, neglect, and the importance of human connection. Jordan found himself thrust into the spotlight, but he was reluctant to embrace it. He had not sought fame or recognition. He had simply acted out of compassion for a man who had been forgotten. Despite the media frenzy, Jordan refused interviews and declined to comment extensively on the situation. He felt uncomfortable with the attention, believing that the focus should remain on Harold's story rather than his own. When pressed for a statement, he simply said, "I didn't earn this money. I just listened. He did the rest." His humility resonated with many, and people began to rally around him, recognizing the significance of his actions. As Jordan contemplated what to do with his newfound wealth, he realized that he wanted to honor Harold's memory in a meaningful way. He understood that the money was not just a windfall. It was an opportunity to create change and make a difference in the lives of others who had been overlooked and neglected. Inspired by Harold's experiences and the stories of other residents in the nursing home, Jordan decided to establish the Dignity Fund, a non-profit legal aid foundation dedicated to helping elderly individuals who had been forgotten by their families or mistreated in care homes. The Dignity Fund would provide legal assistance to seniors facing issues such as elder abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. It would also offer free workshops for low-income seniors on wills, fraud prevention, and end-of-life planning resources that Harold had never had access to until Jordan arrived on that Thursday afternoon. Jordan envisioned a world where every elderly person could receive the respect and dignity they deserved, regardless of their circumstances. As he began to lay the groundwork for the Dignity Fund, Jordan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He poured his heart and soul into the organization, working tirelessly to raise awareness and secure funding. He reached out to local businesses, community leaders, and fellow attorneys, sharing Harold's story and the mission of the Dignity Fund. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and soon, Jordan found himself surrounded by a network of supporters who believed in the cause. The media continued to cover Jordan's journey, highlighting the impact of the Dignity Fund and the lives it was changing. Seniors across the city began to write letters of gratitude, expressing their appreciation for the resources and support they had received. One woman wrote, "You gave us more than legal help. You gave us dignity." These heartfelt messages fueled Jordan's determination to continue his work and expand the reach of the Dignity Fund. As the organization grew, Jordan remained grounded in his mission. He often reflected on Harold's life and the lessons he had learned from their brief but meaningful connection. He understood that the true measure of success was not found in wealth or accolades, but in the ability to uplift others and create a lasting impact. Harold's legacy had become intertwined with his own, and Jordan was committed to ensuring that it would live on through the work of the Dignity Fund in the face of challenges and setbacks. Jordan remained steadfast in his resolve. He faced criticism from those who questioned his motives and the legitimacy of his inheritance, but he refused to be swayed. He knew that he had been chosen for a reason, and he was determined to honor Harold's memory by advocating for those who had been silenced and forgotten. As the Dignity Fund continued to flourish, Jordan placed a single marble plaque outside the new office. It read, "In memory of Harold Whitmore, the man they forgot, who remembered us all." This simple tribute served as a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of recognizing the humanity in every individual. Harold's story had transcended his own life, becoming a catalyst for change and a beacon of hope for those who had been overlooked. In the end, the reading of Harold Whitmore's will was not just a legal formality, it was a profound moment of justice and redemption. It highlighted the consequences of neglect and the transformative power of kindness. Jordan Ellis had not only inherited a fortune, he had inherited a mission worth more than money, one that would continue to inspire and uplift others for years to come. As the dust settled from the dramatic reading of Harold Whitmore's will, Jordan Ellis found himself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. The shock of inheriting $4.7 million was overwhelming, but it was the weight of responsibility that truly resonated with him. He had not sought wealth or recognition. He had simply acted out of compassion for a man who had been forgotten by his own family. Now, he was faced with the challenge of honoring Harold's legacy in a way that would reflect the dignity and respect that Harold had so desperately sought in his final years. Jordan understood that the money was not just a windfall, it was an opportunity to create meaningful change. He had witnessed firsthand the struggles of elderly individuals who had been neglected and mistreated, and he felt a deep sense of obligation to ensure that their voices were heard. Inspired by Harold's experiences and the stories of other residents in the nursing home, Jordan began to formulate a plan for how he could use his inheritance to make a difference. The idea for the Dignity Fund was born out of a desire to provide legal assistance to seniors facing issues such as elder abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. Jordan envisioned a non-profit organization that would not only offer legal services but also serve as a resource for education and empowerment. He wanted to create a space where elderly individuals could receive the support they needed to navigate the complexities of the legal system and advocate for their rights. Jordan's vision extended beyond just legal aid. He wanted to address the systemic issues that contributed to the mistreatment of seniors. He recognized that many elderly individuals were unaware of their rights and lacked access to essential resources. To combat this, he planned to launch free workshops for low-income seniors on topics such as wills, fraud prevention, and end-of-life planning. These workshops would provide valuable information and tools to help seniors protect themselves and make informed decisions about their futures. As he began to lay the groundwork for the Dignity Fund, Jordan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He poured his heart and soul into the organization, working tirelessly to raise awareness and secure funding. He reached out to local businesses, community leaders, and fellow attorneys, sharing Harold's story and the mission of the Dignity Fund. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and soon, Jordan found himself surrounded by a network of supporters who believed in the cause. The media continued to cover Jordan's journey, highlighting the impact of the Dignity Fund and the lives it was changing. Articles and news segments showcased the workshops, the legal assistance provided, and the stories of seniors who had benefited from the organization's services. Jordan's commitment to honoring Harold's memory resonated with many, and people began to rally around him, recognizing the significance of his actions. One of the first workshops, organized by the Dignity Fund, focused on wills and estate planning. Jordan invited legal experts to speak and provide guidance to attendees. The turnout was impressive, with seniors from various backgrounds eager to learn about their rights and how to protect their assets. As Jordan stood before the group, he felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He was not just sharing information, he was empowering individuals to take control of their lives and make informed decisions. During the workshop, Jordan shared Harold's story, emphasizing the importance of family connections and the consequences of neglect. He spoke candidly about the pain Harold had experienced in his final years and how that pain had inspired the creation of the Dignity Fund. The room was filled with emotion as seniors listened intently, many nodding in agreement as they recognized their own struggles reflected in Harold's narrative. The impact of the Dignity Fund extended beyond legal assistance. It fostered a sense of community among seniors who had often felt isolated and forgotten. The workshops became a safe space for individuals to share their experiences, connect with one another, and build relationships. Jordan encouraged open dialogue, allowing attendees to voice their concerns and ask questions. The camaraderie that developed among participants was heartwarming, and it became clear that the Dignity Fund was not just about legal aid. It was about restoring dignity and fostering human connection. As the organization grew, Jordan faced challenges along the way. He encountered skepticism from some who questioned his motives and the legitimacy of his inheritance. There were whispers of doubt, with some suggesting that he was merely seeking fame or fortune. However, Jordan remained steadfast in his resolve. He knew that he had been chosen for a reason, and he was determined to honor Harold's memory by advocating for those who had been silenced and forgotten. In response to the criticism, Jordan continued to focus on the mission of the Dignity Fund. He organized community outreach events, collaborating with local organizations to raise awareness about elder abuse and the importance of protecting seniors' rights. He spoke at community centers, churches, and senior living facilities, sharing Harold's story and the work being done through the Dignity Fund. His passion and dedication resonated with audiences, and he began to build a reputation as a tireless advocate for the elderly. One particularly impactful event was a community forum on elder abuse, where Jordan invited experts to discuss the various forms of mistreatment that seniors often face. The forum provided a platform for survivors to share their stories, and the emotional weight of their experiences left a lasting impression on everyone in attendance. Jordan listened intently as individuals recounted their struggles, and he felt a deep sense of empathy for those who had endured such hardships. It reinforced his commitment to ensuring that no one else would have to suffer in silence. As the Dignity Fund continued to flourish, Jordan placed a single marble plaque outside the new office. It read, "In memory of Harold Whitmore, the man they forgot, who remembered us all." This simple tribute served as a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of recognizing the humanity in every individual. Harold's story had transcended his own life, becoming a catalyst for change and a beacon of hope for those who had been overlooked. The Dignity Fund's success was not just measured in numbers or financial contributions. It was reflected in the lives it touched. Seniors began to share their gratitude through letters and testimonials, expressing how the organization had made a difference in their lives. One woman wrote, "You gave us more than legal help. You gave us dignity." These heartfelt messages fueled Jordan's determination to continue his work and expand the reach of the Dignity Fund. As the organization grew, Jordan remained grounded in his mission. He often reflected on Harold's life and the lessons he had learned from their brief but meaningful connection. He understood that the true measure of success was not found in wealth or accolades, but in the ability to uplift others and create a lasting impact. Harold's legacy had become intertwined with his own, and Jordan was committed to ensuring that it would live on through the work of the Dignity Fund. In the face of challenges and setbacks, Jordan remained steadfast in his resolve. He faced criticism from those who questioned his motives and the legitimacy of his inheritance, but he refused to be swayed. He knew that he had been chosen for a reason, and he was determined to honor Harold's memory by advocating for those who had been silenced and forgotten. In response to the criticism, Jordan continued to focus on the mission of the Dignity Fund. He organized community outreach events, collaborating with local organizations to raise awareness about elder abuse and the importance of protecting seniors' rights. He spoke at community centers, churches, and senior living facilities, sharing Harold's story and the work being done through the Dignity Fund. His passion and dedication resonated with audiences, and he began to build a reputation as a tireless advocate for the elderly. One particularly impactful event was a community forum on elder abuse, where Jordan invited experts to discuss the various forms of mistreatment that seniors often face. The forum provided a platform for survivors to share their stories, and the emotional weight of their experiences left a lasting impression on everyone in attendance. Jordan listened intently as individuals recounted their struggles, and he felt a deep sense of empathy for those who had endured such hardships. It reinforced his commitment to ensuring that no one else would have to suffer in silence. As the Dignity Fund continued to flourish, Jordan placed a single marble plaque outside the new office. It read, "In memory of Harold Whitmore, the man they forgot, who remembered us all." This simple tribute served as a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of recognizing the humanity in every individual. Harold's story had transcended his own life, becoming a catalyst for change and a beacon of hope for those who had been overlooked. The Dignity Fund's success was not just measured in numbers or financial contributions. It was reflected in the lives it touched. Seniors began to share their gratitude through letters and testimonials, expressing how the organization had made a difference in their lives. One woman wrote, "You gave us more than legal help. You gave us dignity." These heartfelt messages fueled Jordan's determination to continue his work and expand the reach of the Dignity Fund. As the organization grew, Jordan remained grounded. In his mission, he often reflected on Harold's life and the lessons he had learned from their brief but meaningful connection. He understood that the true measure of success was not found in wealth or accolades, but in the ability to uplift others and create a lasting impact. Harold's legacy had become intertwined with his own, and Jordan was committed to ensuring that it would live on through the work of the Dignity Fund. In the face of challenges and setbacks, Jordan remained steadfast in his resolve. He faced criticism from those who questioned his motives and the legitimacy of his inheritance, but he refused to be swayed. He knew that he had been chosen for a reason, and he was determined to honor Harold's memory by advocating for those who had been silenced and forgotten. As the Dignity Fund continued to flourish, Jordan placed a single marble plaque outside the new office. It read, "In memory of Harold Whitmore, the man they forgot, who remembered us all." This simple tribute served as a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of recognizing the humanity in every individual. Harold's story had transcended his own life, becoming a catalyst for change and a beacon of hope for those who had been overlooked. In the end, the journey that began with a lonely funeral transformed into a movement dedicated to restoring dignity and respect to the elderly. Jordan Ellis had not only inherited a fortune, he had inherited a mission mission worth more than money, one that would continue to inspire and uplift others for years to come. Through the Dignity Fund, Harold Whitmore's legacy lived on, reminding everyone that every life matters and that compassion can change the world. As the Dignity Fund continued to grow and flourish, the impact of Harold Whitmore's legacy became increasingly evident. Jordan Ellis had transformed a tragic story of neglect into a powerful movement dedicated to restoring dignity and respect to the elderly. However, not everyone was pleased with the outcome of Harold's will. His children, James, Caroline, and Thomas, were determined to contest it, believing that they were entitled to their father's fortune despite their absence during his final years. The legal battle that ensued was intense and emotionally charged. Harold's children hired a team of lawyers, arguing that their father had been of unsound mind when he made the decision to disinherit them. They claimed that he had been manipulated by Jordan, painting him as a gold digger who had taken advantage of an elderly man in his vulnerable state. The media, which had initially celebrated Jordan's story, began to cover the unfolding drama with a mix of intrigue and sensationalism. Headlines blared and public opinion became divided. Jordan, however, remained steadfast in his commitment to honor Harold's memory. He understood that the legal battle was not just about money. It was about the principles of dignity, respect, and the consequences of neglect. He had witnessed firsthand the pain that Harold had endured at the hands of his own family, and he was determined to ensure that his legacy would not be tarnished by their attempts to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. As the court dates approached, Jordan prepared himself for the challenges ahead. He knew that the legal system could be unforgiving, and he was acutely aware of the emotional toll that the proceedings would take on him. Yet he found strength in the support of the community that had rallied around him. Letters of encouragement poured in from seniors who had benefited from the Dignity Fund, expressing their gratitude for the work he was doing. One letter stood out in particular, written by a woman named Margaret, who had faced elder abuse in her own family. She wrote, "You are fighting for all of us who have been forgotten. Thank you for giving us a voice." These words resonated deeply with Jordan, reminding him of the importance of his mission. He was not just fighting for Harold. He was fighting for every elderly individual who had been overlooked and mistreated. With each passing day, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, and he was determined to see the battle through to the end. The courtroom became a battleground for emotions, with Harold's children presenting their case with a mix of anger and desperation. They painted a picture of a father who had been abandoned by his family, claiming that they had always been there for him, despite the evidence to the contrary. Jordan, on the other hand, stood firm in his belief that Harold had made his wishes clear. He presented evidence of the neglect Harold had faced, including testimonies from nursing home staff and other residents who had witnessed the deterioration of his relationships with his children. As the trial progressed, it became increasingly clear that the public was siding with Jordan. The media coverage shifted from sensationalism to a more sympathetic portrayal of the elderly and the importance of family connections. Social media platforms buzzed with support for Jordan, with hashtags like #JusticeForHarold trending as people shared their own stories of neglect and mistreatment. The narrative had shifted from one of inheritance to one of dignity and respect for the elderly. In a pivotal moment during the trial, Jordan took the stand to share his experiences with Harold. He spoke candidly about their time together in the nursing home, emphasizing the dignity that Harold had shown even in his final days. Harold was not just a man with money. He was a human being who deserved respect and compassion, Jordan stated passionately. He taught me that our worth is not measured by our wealth, but by how we treat one another. His words resonated deeply with the jury, and it became evident that they were moved by the sincerity of his testimony. The courtroom fell silent as Jordan recounted the moments he had spent with Harold, the conversations they had shared, and the lessons he had learned from him. He spoke of the importance of listening, of being present for those who are often forgotten, and of the profound impact that kindness can have on a person's life. As the trial drew to a close, the jury deliberated on the evidence presented. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as everyone awaited the verdict. Jordan felt a mix of anxiety and hope, knowing that the outcome would not only affect his future, but also the legacy of a man who had been forgotten by his own family. Finally, the jury returned with their decision. The foreman stood and announced, "We find in favor of Mr. Jordan Ellis." The room erupted in a mix of gasps and murmurs. Harold's children were visibly shaken, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and anger. Jordan, however, felt a wave of relief wash over him. The verdict was not just a legal victory. It was a validation of Harold's life and the choices he had made. In the aftermath of the trial, Jordan continued to focus on the mission of the Dignity Fund. The legal battle had only strengthened. His resolve to advocate for the elderly and ensure that their voices were heard. He expanded the organization's reach, partnering with local agencies and community organizations to provide even more resources and support for seniors in need. The Dignity Fund became a beacon of hope for many, offering legal assistance, educational workshops, and a sense of community for those who had often felt isolated and forgotten. Jordan's commitment to honoring Harold's memory was evident in every aspect of the organization's work. He often reflected on the lessons he had learned from Harold and the importance of compassion in a world that can sometimes feel cold and indifferent. As the years passed, Jordan continued to receive letters from seniors expressing their gratitude for the work being done through the Dignity Fund. One letter, in particular, stood out to him. It was from a woman named Eleanor, who had recently lost her husband and was struggling to navigate the complexities of her own estate planning. She wrote, "Thank you for reminding us that we are not alone. Your work gives us hope and dignity in our golden years." These letters served as a constant reminder of the impact that Harold's legacy had on the lives of others. Jordan understood that the true measure of success was not found in wealth or accolades, but in the ability to uplift others and create a lasting impact. Harold's story had transcended his own life, becoming a catalyst for change and a beacon of hope for those who had been overlooked. In a poignant moment of reflection, Jordan placed a single marble plaque outside the Dignity Fund office. It read, "In memory of Harold Whitmore, the man they forgot, who remembered us all." This simple tribute served as a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of recognizing the humanity in every individual as he stood before the plaque. Jordan felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey he had undertaken. He had not only inherited a fortune, he had inherited a mission worth more than money, one that would continue to inspire and uplift others for years to come. Through the Dignity Fund, Harold Whitmore's legacy lived on, reminding everyone that every life matters and that compassion can change the world. In the end, the story of Harold Whitmore was not just one of neglect and abandonment. It was a testament to the power of human connection and the importance of standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Jordan Ellis had become a voice for the voiceless, ensuring that the lessons learned from Harold's life would resonate for generations to come. The legacy of a man forgotten by his family had been rewritten, transformed into a powerful narrative of dignity, respect, and the enduring impact of kindness. The life lesson from Harold Whitmore's story and Jordan Ellis's journey emphasizes the profound importance of compassion, connection, and dignity in our relationships with others, particularly the elderly. It teaches us that every individual, regardless of their circumstances, deserves respect and care. The narrative highlights the consequences of neglect and the impact of being forgotten by loved ones, reminding us to cherish and nurture our relationships. Ultimately, it underscores the idea that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the kindness we extend to others and the legacy we create through our actions. By listening, being present, and advocating for those who cannot advocate for themselves, we can make a meaningful difference in the lives of others and honor the humanity in everyone. So, if you believe in the power of storytelling to spark change, if you want more narratives that challenge bias, uplift heritage, and teach respect, then this is your space. Subscribe to the US Black Stories today. Hit the bell so you never miss a story that just might change the way you see the world, and leave us a comment. What did this story make you feel? What did it teach you? Your voice matters here. The more we grow, the more stories we can share. And in a world filled with noise, we choose to tell the stories that matter. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and most of all, thank you for believing that every voice, every life, and every legacy deserves to be heard.